How to Live on the ISS, a mini-film. What is the ISS? The ISS, or International Space Station, is a spacecraft that hovers above Earth. It is meant for crews to complete missions and do research on. It is essentially a science lab in space. So where is the ISS? The International Space Station hovers 220 miles above Earth, holding 6 people at a time, with the occasional guest here and there. It orbits once around the Earth every 90 minutes. This is due to the fact that the station travels at a rate of about 17,500 miles per hour. This means that a person on board the station will see the sun rise and set 16 times a day. How do you get to the ISS? Well, you're launched in a space station that is then docked to the ISS. Occasionally, the shuttle may stop at the Russian Mir station, the Hubble telescope, around the ISS to do repairs. The launch can be pretty crazy because you go from feeling an immense pressure while fighting gravity and leaving the atmosphere to feeling absolutely weightless in a matter of 8 minutes. What is living on the ISS like? Typically, an ISS mission is about 6 months long. That means 6 months without gravity, 6 months with freeze-dried food, and 6 months of weird showers. In order to make sure that everyone's bodies remain stable for their eventual return to the Earth, astronauts have to exercise 2 hours a day on a machine. The machine is essentially a treadmill, which you are then tied and weighed to. You can adjust the weights for resistance, and a computer tells you what level your heart rate should be at versus where you are. Eating in space is completely different than eating on Earth. All of the foods have been either cooked, frozen, and the water has been removed, freeze-dried. Or food has been thermally stabilized so that it doesn't spoil. Earlier on in the mission, you can bring fruit, but all of the foods brought must be eaten before they perish. Also, no crumbs. Crumbs can damage part of the station. Therefore, the ideal food for the station is peanut butter. Showering and going to a bathroom are different too. When you are using a bathroom, you have to put on a bunch of restraints so that you don't float away. When you are showering, you step into a cylindrical shower area that is closed off and use soap and water. But since there is no gravity, the water droplets are dispersed everywhere. How do you sleep? Sleeping is also different in space. Since there is no gravity, there is a bit adjusting to do, but you can attach the sleeping bags to walls or the ceiling so that you aren't bumping into things.
The history of the International Space Station. On January 25, 1984, President Ronald Reagan declared in his State of the Union address that he was going to direct NASA to develop a permanently manned space station and that it was going to be done within the decade. This was the very beginning of the International Space Station. The International Space Station that you see now is the product of over 10 years and 30 missions of hard work. The ISS was not assembled on the ground and then shot up into space. It had to be taken up piece by piece because it's about the size of a football field. Before the ISS, there was an experimental station already in space. This was due thanks to the linking of 2 Russian vehicles in space in 1969. The first segment of the ISS was launched on November 20th of 1998. This Russian proton rocket, known as Zarya, became the first of many new pieces that were added on to the ISS that we recognize today. After the Zarya mission, In December 1998, the first U.S.-built component of the I.S.S. was launched and added on to the existing piece. The piece was called Unity. On October 31st, 2000, a spacecraft launched what would be known as the first crew on the I.S.S. This crew of 3 landed on November 2nd. This became the start of uninterrupted human presence on the lab. As more time passed, more pieces were added on to the space station. The countries that contributed different parts were Russia, the United States, Canada, Japan, and a series of smaller countries that are known together as the European Space Agency. Now, with so many different pieces contributed to the I.S.S. by so many different countries, important questions such as how was space going to be shared, who owned what part, and what would happen if a malfunction occurred had to be asked and answered. In 1998, the Intergovernmental Agreement on the Space Station Cooperation was signed by the United States as well as the other countries involved. This set out the different laws and rules for going forward as far as sharing the different pieces of equipment of the I.S.S. Since the very first crew that landed in 2000, there have been 51 different expeditions on the I.S.S. The current crew, or Expedition 51, is comprised of 5 people. Each new crew gets their own badge for the expedition, as well as their own mission to complete on board.